Welcome back. Glad you could make it. You're just in time. But in case you hadn't noticed, this is a part 2. To understand what the hell I'm talking about here, you have to watch part 1. Which you should have done anyway. Who watches part 2 first? Just go watch part 1, you bellend. As before, I have to give credit and my thanks to Elgar'nan. Hope you'll enjoy this one too. Right then. Last time we learned of the origin of the dwarves and the blight. Dwarves came from the Sha-Brytol losing their connection to the Titan, and the blight came from the Titan having a damn serious case of blood poisoning, caused by the Elgar'nan shoving a half-dead mythal up its arse. I mean heart. I chose those two topics for the first video on purpose, because those two combined give us the origin of another long-standing mystery, the origin of Darkspawn. It is no coincidence that the Void is devoid of any life, aside from the Sha-Brytol. They are the guardians of the Titan, tasked to protect it from the impure, which is everything except them. Easy task, and at least the job description is clearly defined. But the catastrophic mistake of a rebirth, which is what my mother used to call me, also needs someone to make sure there's ample amount of murder going on inside it. But since the Taint ruins just about anything it touches, you can imagine how well the recruitment went. I imagine after the Elgar'nan shat the bed and collapsed the mine, that not all of the dwarves were able to flee. Some might have stayed to witness the rebirth of their former master. Or maybe they just couldn't run fast enough with their stumpy little legs. We've seen what happens with people that get infected by the Taint and survive. Larius is a good example. He became more Darkspawn than human. Yet, while he retained his wits somewhat, he eventually would have stepped past the line of consciousness and joined the Horde. So the Tainted Titan, the Tainton if you will, made its own version of the Sha-Brytol, except that they won't ever win a beauty contest. But it's alright, they have longer legs, and it still loves them. With the Darkspawn origin established, we have another connection that needs explanation. The reason blights became a thing. The Darkspawn search endlessly in the underground for an old god to corrupt, and lead the Horde topside. But where do old gods come from? Well, when you look at this codex, you'll find out that the elven gods were able to shapeshift into a form that they reserved only for themselves, something that is quite prominently displayed by Mama Mythal. From this we can assume that dragons are former elves that broke the rules of the Elgar'nan by taking on the form of the gods. Now, the old gods are similar, but they weren't elves, they were spirits. Powerful spirits that were banished by Daddy Elgar'nan. They followed suit with the other rebel elves and turned into dragons, but since they were imprisoned underground and their purpose was kept from them, they turned into demons, which made them into the monstrous beasts they are now. It's commonly known that one way to be taught in the ways of blood magic is to make a deal with a demon. And what a coincidence it is that Thalcian became the first blood mage, after being taught by the old god Dumat himself, who just so happens to be a demon. The reason to teach the humans this way of magic is that it's the only access to magic they have. They have been cut off from the fate by the veil the Solas put up, so they have to teach mortals another way. But why teach them in the first place? Well, being imprisoned underground is a shit situation, one that was caused by none other than Elgar'nan, whom they want revenge on. He's responsible for turning them into demons after all, but while they tried to piss off the elven god, Elgar'nan rebranded himself. Slipping into the role of the Maker would be a pretty easy process for the man. He has already played God King of everything back in his days. So branding himself as the Maker, who is supposed to have created the world, would be a regular Tuesday for the bastard. Acts that the Chantry attributes to the Maker were also, by pure chance, attributed to Elgar'nan by the elves. The Maker called the Fate his home, and both of them resided in the Golden City, a palace to the gods hanging in the skies above Arathan. Which would explain why they needed to turn into dragons in the first place. How else would you get home? Next is Symbolism. The Maker is commonly represented with a blazing sun inside a circle. Elgar'nan is commonly associated with the constellation Solium, which happens to be, you guessed it, a blazing sun. He was also known as the elven god of the sun, so there is that too. Ever since he and his buddies shoved his wife into the Titan's heart, the man also happens to be a bachelor, which proved to be handy when he sealed the alliance with Andraste and the Alamari through marriage. He did this so he could aim them against his most hated enemies, not the Imperium, but their masters, the old gods that he banished thousands of years ago. That's the theory, at least. Let me know what you think, I'm always up for discussion. There is another part to the whole Origins series, about the Qunari origin, but I already covered that in another video, linked down below. As always, if you enjoyed it, subscribe. If, for some reason, you want to contact me, send me a PM on Reddit, or on Twitter, where you can follow me for news, updates, random facts about Dragon Age, and other stuff.